Saturday Instagram family. My name is Kaejenn. I am the founder of the Limitless Dentist. And yeah, welcome to another week of a live guest, but also, I guess, another week of training. For those of you who are kind of tuning in for the very first time to this community or stumbled across this live, welcome to the Limitless Dentist community. I created this platform and this page really for fellow dental professionals around the world as a free resource to you if you might be struggling or going through maybe some burnout, some chronic stress, some anxiety, any concerns or issues with your clinical performance, and a safe space for you to feel seen, heard, and understood. And it's so important to me that there is a platform for people to, for me, I went through my own burnout journey and overcame my own burnout journey. And I just want to serve this as a testimony to be able to show people what is possible to go through the harder work and heal and fulfill your dreams in terms of the kind of dream dental career you want to create. Now, if you're ever wondering what being a limitless dentist actually is, it's very simple. It's a personal commitment to being the best version of you so that you can be the best dentist you can be and serve your patients to your highest level. But ultimately, being a limitless dentist is a journey of unlocking that fulfilling dream dental career. Fulfilling dental career of your dreams. And I always say your dreams, not my dreams or what Instagram might suggest to you, because sometimes there's that facade of all these amazing things we can do in our careers, but it's really important that you individualize those dreams that are important to your core values. So it brings me great pleasure to kind of have a guest speaker back for a second time that we had last year. And we've got Dr. Grace Shah joining us. So I'm going to actually let her onto this live and come. Love the work that Grace does. And for any of you guys who don't know who Dr. Grace is, she's a captivating speaker. Hey, Grace, how are you?
Hi. We're successful this time.
Absolutely. So I'll just do a quick intro for you for anyone who
Sure.
doesn't know who you are, which is probably not, probably very few people. But, Dr. Grace Shah is a captivating speaker, author, and visionary founder of Burnout to Abundance Culture. She's a natural storyteller, she's a survivor of burnout herself, and has overcome adversities and challenges. I love her story of resilience, adventure, and hope. And she's done amazing things in her life outside of being a dentist. I mean, she went on a trip to South Africa with Sir Richard Branson, and she's also volunteered in mental hospitals overseas. She currently practices in Queensland and graduated from the University of Melbourne in 2009. And also does a couple of stints of tutoring and some helping out of the academic side as well. I know she's also a counsellor of the ADA Queensland, obviously is a very strong advocate for our profession, which is so amazing because, Grace and I share that common value of contributing, outside of just the way we treat our patients. And also she is the current, president of the Southside Dental Study Group, which is also another great resource for clinicians to, network and obviously learn from each other. So welcome back again to the Limitless Dentist live series, Grace. How are you today on a Saturday morning?
I am good. This is already like maybe lunchtime really for me because I've been up since 5 a.m. with my baby. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And, I really appreciate your time today because I know you're such a busy person in terms of, juggling motherhood with your baby Jetty. Congratulations on your baby boy. I know it's amazing that you've had a baby boy since the last time we caught up. And I guess I'd love to maybe start off with that because, switching gears from what we last spoke about in our last conversation, I get a lot of, I have a lot of audience members and probably there's a lot of dentists who are watching this right now who are mothers juggling a dental career and trying to figure it all out, right? So maybe for a couple of, minutes or so, or actually, just on the first point, I'd love to ask you, how has been navigating the journey of motherhood been for you so far? Well, because I know you do speaking gigs, You do some dental stuff as well, and you wear so many hats on any given day, I guess is the best way I can say. And
Yeah.
what do you do on a regular basis to kind of keep on top of it? We'd love to know.
Yes. Yeah, we've had a lot of people ask us, how do you manage like being a mother and a public speaker and traveling, and also I'm back at clinic doing dental work 1 day a week already. My first answer is I have a good husband. He's actually in the back of the car here. Uh, yeah, because we're about to go to a appointment after this. So he's babysitting, and I'm very blessed. He's willing to actually take a break from his career in property and HR to actually help me with looking after the baby as well as doing my back end. So you'll see my website is a little bit more up and running than last time we spoke. So yeah, he does a lot of the back end stuff for me. When we go to events, he helps me take photos to make sure that I look decent on stage. So yeah, he does a lot of those things that I probably don't have time, or I don't notice the details quite as much. So very grateful for that. But also, I think, if some people don't have a husband who's able to actually help them in that way, also, paid help is very helpful as well. Or if you have, family members who are able to help. I know some of my friends have parents or in-laws who are very helpful, and that helps them be able to, progress in their specialist careers in medicine and things like that. We are also very lucky to have a part-time nanny. So one of my friends who is a specialist actually had a nanny for 7 years, and she's actually generously shared a couple of days of that nanny with us now that her kids are older. So yeah, we're very blessed to be able to have someone who sort of can learn what we would like to do as parents, because we're very big on educating ourselves. So we've done Triple P and Circle of Security programs so that we can establish what we want to do as parents, because, everyone comes from a different family. We all have different baggages from our parents, or things that we want to do or don't want to do from our own families of origin. So how do we progress forward and start something new as our own little family?
Amazing. And I think you're so right about, whether you are a parent or not, just the importance of that support network is so, so critical. And I guess I'd love to ask you, since you mentioned that point, because I think it's phenomenal that you and Nick have really doubled down on your personal development and education as new parents to try to, parent your young Jetty as best as you can. So you mentioned two amazing things, Triple P and Circle of Security. For those who are uninitiated or don't know what that is, do you mind sharing, what the main philosophy behind those programs, or maybe even why you decided to do those programs to help you in your parenthood journey?
Yeah, actually, we haven't shared this with many people ourselves, but this might be a good forum to share about it, actually. So, after Jetty was born, I was quite ambitious, and most people think that, and I would agree. I'm a little bit over the top sometimes with my goals. I was graduating from a board internship program, as you know, and that was at a big conference in Melbourne with lots of people. I think it was like 400 people, maybe. Yeah, forgive me if I'm wrong. I have mum brain, but like a very big conference where I'll go on stage and be recognized to finish my board internship. So I was very determined that I wanted to go. No one pressured me to go, but I was like, no, I want to go. So we actually decided to bring Jetty along to that conference in Melbourne when he was 3 weeks old. And it actually worked out really well. Jetty was really good on the flight, but what we found challenging were like other people's expectation of what we would be like as new parents and what we should do or shouldn't do. So, if we actually remove everyone else in our lives who are critical or negative or judgmental or want to impose their own perspectives on us or their own opinions, then we would actually be quite happy as a family, just like living in the woods by ourselves. But we don't live in that sort of world, right? So we do have to connect with others, and we do, we're happy to sort of listen to everyone's lived experience as parents or learn from experts. But it's when they sort of go, oh, you should do this, or you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't travel with your kids, that we find it's a little bit tricky, because, you know, what they perceive as what they can do might not be what I can do. So anyway, we went to that conference, and then when we got back, Nick actually caught a bug that we think now, in retrospect, it might be SARS, because some of our other friends got a similar bug and was coughing nonstop for 3 or 4 weeks. So because I was actually still doing some public speaking gigs, we had to isolate Nick into a room. So I was pretty much single parenting by myself. And it was actually a real struggle because we have no family support here. So I ended up checking myself into the postnatal ward in one of the psych hospitals in Brisbane. So because of my previous experience, as you know, I shared with you in my previous interview how I was, locked up against my will involuntarily by my ex-husband when I had nothing wrong with me. So ironically, this time I was like, oh, I think I'm really struggling. I need some support. I don't need any medications. I just, maybe need some counseling and some food and sleep, so that I can function and not like starve to death and not like get angry at my husband for leaving me alone with this baby, like a single mum. And it was really hard to get in, like when I actually voluntarily wanted to go in, but eventually we got there. And that was actually how I sort of got back into that sort of system. And we're actually very grateful in retrospect, because while I was there, I learned a lot about mothering that no one ever teaches you, right? Like I've been Auntie Grace for 20 years for a lot of my friends' kids, and I've been working with kids in my dental career for about 15 years. I had a special interest with kids and special needs patients. And no one teaches you what size nappy should you buy, when you're getting poo bombs that are leaking everywhere, or how do you sterilize a bottle, or how often do you sterilize a bottle? And it was actually all there where these nurses actually taught me all of these day-to-day things, or pick up, interesting facts about my kid and tell me what the average kid might do and why my kid's different. And then Jetty got sleep trained because he was looked after by the nurses from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. So he actually ended up learning how to sort of mostly sleep through the night within a few weeks of being born. So we're very grateful. And after that, we can then access the outpatient education programs, which includes the Triple P, which actually is free for all parents in Australia. I think sponsored by the government. I don't know whether it's Australia or Queensland, but it's online. There's an online program that all parents could do, and I think should do. It's very helpful, but we were able to do it live, run by a psychologist. And also we did the Circle of Security program, which teaches about how to, understand your child's needs and connect with them and make them secure and wholesome and confident human beings. And it's a great program. I would highly recommend, whether it's with a psychologist or there are not-for-profits. Like, for example, in Brisbane, there's actually a not-for-profit I'm really, close to, called Peachtree Perinatal. And they actually run by a lot of volunteers or staff that actually have lived experience with postnatal depression or perinatal sort of disorders. And they actually run that program as well for like a very nominal fee, or even free sometimes, I think. So, I would highly recommend it to anyone who's, becoming a parent or a new parent who might need some support. Very great programs to look into.
Yeah, amazing. And thank you so much for sharing that, Grace, in terms of you, in this case, tricking yourself into the postnatal ward, because,
Mm.
many mums and new parents, I mean, I'm an uncle now because I've got a young nephew that my brother still had a baby 3 months ago. And, I've been watching them evolve as parents, and a lot of it is like, I feel like there's a societal expectation where you kind of just either figure it out for yourself if you don't have someone who has enough experience as a parent, or you learn it from your set of parents and they'll teach you what they know or what they did for you,
Mm.
which may or may not reflect or be appropriate or contextual to how we're living now.
Mm.
And I think it's
Mm.
amazing that just by you, checking yourself in and getting not only the mental health support you needed for you as a mum and as the main, provider and caregiver for the little one, at the same time you got wrapped around extra supportive resources, and almost it was like an educational journey
Yeah.
for you and Nick to kind of learn about, and the fact that Jenny got sleep training. Like, I mean, I've never even heard of sleep training for babies. I know, like, you try to train your child to sleep, but the fact that you had like nurses that were able to like sleep train the baby with amazing, obviously experience working with babies, and then obviously the as you said, the outpatient resources that you had available, I think is phenomenal. And I love how you've taken the journey of like motherhood, as if you've taken like a personal development journey. You're like, okay, how can I learn to be the best mum and study to be the best mum, and get the resources I need to give me the tools in the toolkit to be able to,
Yeah, I wasn't
succeed.
expecting to share this side, but I figured your topics that you talk about is very appropriate, so it's a good place to announce it because I was a bit unsure because I found even when I told people that know me quite well,
Mm,
surprisingly some people were quite sort of judgmental or found it quite confronting to find out that I wanted to go and stay in the postnatal ward, in a psych ward. And it's quite sad because it's actually a really nice place. It's like a hotel, right? And I'm very grateful. It's actually one of my other friends who actually had quite severe postnatal depression who highly promoted it to me, knowing that I've had experiences with the mental health ward before. And like she was very open with sharing her journey when she became a mum. And so I know about this resource there. I was living in a very different part of the hospital back when I was locked up against my will, of course. But yeah, this part where it was all just mums and babies was actually really great. And yeah, I wanted to also credit my husband. He actually is the only dad who shows up to all the sessions for Triple P and Circle of Security. So we just pay like a bit of like $50 extra fees for him to come along, and the whole room is just mums and then him. So
amazing. Yeah, and I think I appreciate you sharing so vulnerably with us here on this platform too, because you've probably just created just a beacon of hope for many mums out there who are watching this right now, and they're trying to navigate motherhood and a dental career. And sometimes if there's that what I call phase of feeling a little bit maybe helpless, of being like, I'm doing everything I can to my best of my ability, but I feel like I just don't have all the resources I need. So I think it's great that you shared those resources are available to anyone who's in Australia, and they can go look up some, the Triple P program and the Circle of Security program, and see how they can access those resources that are either funded by government or at least partially supported.
mm,
And I think that's a great mindset to have, because all trials and tribulations and circumstance are figure outable if you're willing to find the resources to figure them out, and do the learning and study like we are a student again. So that's amazing. And I guess, switching from, I guess, motherhood, and then, and I love how, since I've known you, Grace, I love how, you're always moving on to the next amazing project, and you don't skip a beat, in spite of, because most mothers and would be perfectly valid to take a big break, do motherhood, and then come back. But I love how you're like, no, I know my purpose and I know the areas I want to serve. I'm going to continue to evolve and morph into as a mother, whilst also doing all the things that are important to me. And one of the things I know you're also really passionate about, is obviously dental volunteering.
mm,
And obviously, I know you've been organising different volunteering trips in the past, but you've got one coming up real soon.
mm.
Maybe share with us, where did that passion for dental volunteering maybe start from? And I know part of it comes from your bio and your story of what you've done in the past, but maybe share some insights into maybe your current mindset of like the purpose and the mission behind you organising yourself, like volunteering trips to this day, and what's the one coming up, in case anyone who is watching this wants to get involved in future projects that you're also organising as well.
Mm. Sure. Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for inviting me to share about that. First of all, yeah, I'll share my my website, because I do a lot of things, as you mentioned, and there might be different aspects that apply to different people. So my website is drkaejenn.com. And then if you put slash Linktree as well, you'll actually see all of the things that I'm involved in. And actually a bit of a plug, incidental plug actually for something else we're organizing for parents, because since I've become a parent, as you said, I still want to pursue and grow and also like focus on different projects I'm passionate about. And obviously becoming a parent has made me passionate about parenting and educating parents. So another sort of side thing that we started, which initially was just me posting photos and videos of my baby, because we have overseas family and friends who might want to see him. So like I started this page, which was called Mum with Care, but now we've renamed it Parent Without Burnout. And we're actually doing a conference in February next year. That's becoming a little bit like a dental CPD event, actually. I've got Geraldine Moses speaking, who's a lot of people would know. She used to be the pharma advice for Australian Dental Association. And I've got Sue Taji, who's a pediatric dentist in Brisbane who organizes amazing conferences as well. So I've got quite a few speakers lined up, and that's in February next year. So people who are interested can sort of go to my link tree and save the date for that. But yes, then I've got the November conference, which we'll touch on later on when we're chatting. But what's not on the link tree is actually our volunteering, because we're taking 15 dentists to Thailand in a few weeks' time to volunteer, alongside a not-for-profit that's Thailand based. And we're very grateful because how that actually started. Well, you asked me about why I'm passionate about volunteering. So a lot of people who have heard me speak would hear me share that when I was actually going to study dentistry, in all the interviews I gave with the unis, I said I chose dentistry over medicine because it's the easiest way to volunteer. I think as a health professional, a lot of people who grow up, for example, around church environment would know a lot of missionaries who are either long-term overseas missionaries, or they might be short-term missionaries. So I always aspired to becoming a missionary, like actually sharing about my Christian faith overseas to help other people, journey through life, so that they can know God and know like the peace and the joy that I get from being a Christian, overseas where they might be struggling with a lot of practical circumstances. So, that's something that I've always been passionate about growing up. But I was kind of like, I don't think I can survive as an overseas medical missionary long term, but maybe short term will be fine. So yeah, God, you can use me, but maybe just for short term stuff where we just go and then I come back to like comfortable, first world living conditions. So I always wanted to do that. And when I was actually burning out after graduating from uni, a few years out, I was like, what am I doing with my life? What can I achieve next? And then I had like a bit of a wake up call when my research supervisor passed away. And I was like, really, do I want to keep achieving? Do I want to go back to uni to study more? Or, well, I actually said that I wanted to do overseas volunteering. So that's really what I should do with my life, isn't it? So I actually volunteered myself with an organization in Canada that a few of my friends have gone with before. So I knew they were well run and they're purposeful and they're well governed organizations. So I just, sent an email off in the middle of the night when I had this epiphany that I was going to go volunteer overseas. And they actually returned my email straight away going, you're exactly the person we've been praying for this team, mental health team. And I was like, mental health is not really like my forte. I'm a dentist. And they're like, no, we need a translator for the psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers. And also the mental health team has a dental team that sees patients in mental hospitals. So I was actually on sort of both teams on that particular trip to East Asia. And that's when I actually opened my eyes to the fact that I have a lot of transferable skills and I can help in ways outside of just being a dentist. When I came back, I started doing a lot of personal development and business and property development, which we've talked about before. And now, I've been thinking about organizing my own trips since me and Nick went to Peru a few years ago when we met. Nick's family has Peru, origins, and we went to visit some of his relatives there. And while we were there, we were like, wow, these people in Peru are so poor, but they are so grateful and so joyful and just so deserving of being helped. And it was so funny because we flew through San Francisco, and, in San Fran, everyone's, doing pretty well in life. But they were shutting out the homeless people, even during the daytime. Some of the hotels and the shops actually closed their glass doors because they're worried about homeless people or people robbing them. So, it was just not a very, friendly, warm and inviting environment for a tourist in the city. And then we went to Peru where people were being paid $1 for you to take photos with their alpaca to your heart's content. And then, $20 to actually run alongside us while we're on a horse for 40 minutes up the hill, to go to Rainbow Mountain. And we were like, wow, that's so amazing that they're actually so grateful that we're there and so welcoming and happy, but they have so little. So we were actually wanting to organize a volunteer trip for dentists to Peru, but then they had some political instabilities, and the local travel agency that were partnering with us actually were struggling to actually get tourists out of the country for a while. So that kind of fell through. And then last year I met someone at a business event who actually owned quite a few orphanages in Thailand. And he actually organizes regular sort of fundraising events for big corporate people. And they, ride a bike for 5 days and raise $5,000. And I was like, well, I can't really ride a bike for that many days, and I don't think I can raise $5,000 for you. But do they have teeth issues in these orphanages? And he said, yeah, actually, that's something that our board has been talking about, how bad the teeth are. So then I just put the word out on some dental Facebook forums to look for other people who might have volunteered in Thailand before. And I was introduced to a wonderful dentist called Serene in Sydney, who has volunteered in Thailand 7 years in a row. And she's part of an organization that owns 10 mobile dental units in Thailand. So, amazingly, we just started collaborating, and I just sort of asked around to see if people were interested in joining us. And we have now got 15 dentists coming along. Sadly, we aren't actually going to the orphanages that I wanted to help originally because of the political sort of intricacies in Thailand. But we are going to a sort of mountainous region where the locals are very welcoming and keen to have help. And their team are organizing all the back end and doing the, setup for us, because it's quite a big operation. You have to liaise with the dental board there, and then you've got to find patients, and you've got to find a location to set up 10 mobile dental units, and how to sterilize things. So there's a lot to it. But thankfully, while I was having a baby, they were doing that in Thailand, and I'm just sort of coordinating the 15 people coming along with us. So yeah, that's a bit about that one.
Amazing. No, I think and I love you sharing that whole backstory about how that evolved into the project it is today, because I think, many people assume that a dental volunteering trip is just like, I want to volunteer and therefore I'll just go to a country and volunteer. But there's a lot of back end collaboration, and as you said, even navigating political intricacies. Because for us, I did it wasn't a volunteering trip, it was an overseas placement trip when I was in JCU as a student. And we were really excited. There was a company called Work the World that had a placement experience in Iloilo in Philippines. And we had all paid, booked it. And then about 3 months before our trip, the local government made a policy, and I think the reason why was there was a lot of dental volunteerism, which they didn't really like. The fact that they were like in their mindset, I think it was also an internal political interest because they had a new dental school, I think, or something like that. But essentially, they didn't like overseas dentists or trained dentists coming in doing all this training, and then they said leaving a deficit, or they said a path of destruction after, which I was thinking, if you're taking out infected teeth, is that really a path of destruction? But sure, okay. But then what happened was they ended up cancelling, or had to cancel that section of that trip. And so we ended up going to Cambodia instead and worked with an amazing partnership with the University of Puthi Satra with a dental charity called 121. And that was a phenomenal placement experience. We were there for 3 weeks. We went out to a rural prison, working with a lot of people that had HIV as well. And it was just an interesting experience working in, in that kind of third world country environment. And it definitely was, I would say, one of the most enriching experiences that has probably built the foundation of the person I am today and the dentist I am today. And so I can speak from that perspective as well, Grace, of the, many people think, what do I gain outside of just giving to people? Obviously, not everyone goes to go volunteer to gain something necessarily, but of course, there has to be some level of ROI from a learning experience, and you do want to grow yourself and be a better person by going through to, volunteering. And so I think, for me, and I'm not sure if you feel the same way, Grace, is, I feel like outside of just serving that core value of contributing and adding value to those needed communities, I think what we take away is that sense of kind of like you learn, different life skills about like, how to navigate challenges when you don't have the traditional sterilizers you're used to in your private practice, or you're not used to having the level of cleanliness and infection control that we're used to in a first world country, but still providing necessary dental care, and how do you, still provide safe care in those, environment, and also maybe make you feel grateful for what we have in Australia, because we have it. I realize we actually have it very, very good. Probably
for
some of
sure. Yeah.
and so so apart from this Thailand trip, is there any plans in the future to do more of these trips in the future? And I guess if people ever wanted to, get involved with other, let's say, okay, outside of your volunteering trip, that obviously the capacity's been filled. Let's say someone did, was inspired after this talk of this interview and wanted to be like, what, I would love to do something in the near future. Do you know of any other projects or where someone can maybe start their search of potentially finding a volunteering trip to potentially
Yeah,
partake
so
into?
I actually have a Facebook group exactly for that. It's called Health with Care, Volunteering for Health Professionals, I think. It was just like a random, you know me, I like to have big ideas and then I just go and do it. So I started this group last year. Now we have, I think, over 900 people in it, maybe 1,000. Health professionals who are interested in volunteering, because I wanted to, draw, because I was posting asking about the Thailand trip in the Facebook forums that were very large. And I found that some people said, oh, I didn't see your post earlier. Otherwise I would have blah, 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 So, I thought it would be nice to actually have a smaller group where people are just looking for volunteering information. So I invited some organizations to post in there. And also I shared about a few organizations that I know have pretty good, structure and governance, about, volunteering overseas as well. So, if people are interested in that, you can, request to join the Facebook group. It is a closed group for safety for everyone, confidentiality. So I do request people to actually answer some questions before they, can join the group on Facebook. But I am planning, if this Thailand trip goes well, then hopefully we can do return trips yearly, and sort of make it like a CPD thing as well. Because I found I was teaching at Griffith Uni about 10 or 11 years ago now, and a lot of my students were actually really passionate about volunteering, actually, and they wanted to find out how to use their skills to serve other people, because it is, more blessed to give than to receive. Actually, when you actually give and serve, you actually find oftentimes you take away more than what you give. And actually in the missions world, overseas missions world, they actually say most people who go on short-term volunteering trips, actually what you get out of the trip is way more than what the locals get, because only if you go for return trips again and again will you really be able to have a long-term impact. Or if you actually go live among the people long term, that's when you can actually really help sustainably. Otherwise, a lot of volunteering organizations, they go in and sometimes you're actually causing more trouble for the locals, to be honest, because, we come in with our high and mighty, rich first world lens. And in the past, there's been cases where people donate dental chairs and leave it or set up a beautiful clinic in this rural town. And the locals don't know how to maintain the chairs. They don't have light bulbs to replace the bulbs when it blows out. They don't know how to fix the compressor when there's something wrong with it. So then it just goes to waste. So as you said before, Kaejenn, when you went to volunteer, how you think about sterilizing or what's actually doable while still being clean is very different to what we perceive as being acceptable in Australia. And actually, I found that when I went on my first, overseas volunteer trip, we were actually in hospitals, like mental hospitals. So there was, legitimately good set up clinics in the hospitals. But sadly, the dentist that works in the hospital, they are a business, so they're not going to offer free treatment. And oftentimes they don't want to treat the mental health patients. So that's why we were there actually as a team to offer free treatment. And initially, the local dentists were a little bit standoffish and a bit like, oh, are you trying to, steal my clients? But then actually the guy who practiced next door to us came in and observed me for a few days. And afterwards, he realized that we were actually doing him a favor because I would diagnose, issues. And we've only got a limited time there. We're only there for a couple of days. So then I'll be like, well, you've got to find a dentist and finish off this treatment and this treatment. So I ended up doing treatment planning for him. And then everyone was like, oh, I have issues. I need to go see a dentist now. It was funny because we were actually offering free treatment for mental health patients. But then I started seeing like mental health nurses. And then next thing I know, like some nurses were bringing their family members in as well. And then even some doctors were trying to get in. And we're like, we're actually here for the psych patients. We had to turn some of them away. But then I would just do like a quick exam and a bit of a rough treatment plan for them so that they can go and see a local dentist. So we were actually collaborating and helping the local dentist. And he actually was so grateful that he then realized I was wearing the wrong size gloves because someone donated like a small box of gloves for us, but I actually need extra small. So he actually went into his stash and brought me a box of appropriate gloves. And then at another hospital we volunteered at, another mental hospital, there wasn't a local dental clinic in the hospital, but we actually had, some pathologists and some other allied health professionals helping us. So they actually brought some, just recliner chairs in for us to see the patients. And then we had some dentists from the local community come and observe, and they were like a bit judgmental and like looking at us sterilizing going, oh, you're not using the proper machines. I was like, well, we're in a mental hospital. We don't have access to a proper sterilizer. But if you have one in your clinic, why don't you help us by bringing some of these instruments and going and sterilizing it at your clinic? And then he's like, oh, it's okay. Actually, what you're doing is just fine. I find that interesting, so it does give people perspective. And I find that's actually why I want to do continued trips, because part of actually changing the culture of our healthcare, especially the younger generation of dentists that are coming out, being able to be resilient and be grateful for what we have in Australia. You really need some perspective and go overseas and see what real suffering is and real poverty is. And then you'll actually go, wow, none of my problems are really, worth crying about. So yeah, that's what I find really helpful when I go and volunteer. And I really like this quote, from Winston Churchill. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And I think that's the mentality we should have when we're going and helping other people.
I love that. So true. And,
Mm,
I love how, you are quite right that usually when you're doing a short-term trip, you always gain more than what you're actually giving
mm,
back in that moment. And I think you've beautifully summed up kind of all the benefits. And so I guess maybe, if anyone is interested in being part of that Facebook group, if you're
mm.
happy, Grace, with people who are really keen to get part of that
Oh yeah,
Facebook group,
my assistant in the back of the car, my husband just shared. It's the if you look up like Facebook,
yeah,
uh, I can add it into the comment there. It's the Health with Care volunteer.
perfect.
Yeah, I'll send it in the comment under the Facebook Live later.
Sure. Awesome. And then what you can
Yeah.
also do too is if you want to comment it after we post it, actually,
Mm,
it would be great. And then people can take a screenshot and find the link.
yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And I guess, switching gears as well from apart from dental volunteering, I know you recently rebranded your company. You
Mm,
used to be under a different name and now you've rebranded under Burnout to Abundance Culture or B2A
mm.
Culture. So maybe share with us, what was the, I guess, the inspiration behind the rebrand, and what exciting things have you got coming out with this new company and the mission behind that?
Yes. So I think last time we spoke, I was speaking under the banner of Mental Wealth Institute, and that was because, the special interest in promoting mental health, not mental disease, but mental health, and also talking about how our perception of wealth can really change our mental wellness, because wealth is not just monetary wealth, as I said before, with the Peruvians that we met who were not wealthy by any means. They were, living in a mud hut with like 50 guinea pigs running around them that they use as food. But like wealth is more about freedom and gratitude and, knowing what you have is enough. So that was why I called it Mental Wealth Institute. And my book that I'm still in the process of finishing is called Mental Wealth as well, how to journey from burnout to abundance. But I found when I was speaking, people relate to that burnout to abundance part a lot more, because burnout is such a common thing, right? 60% of the population in first world countries actually say they're burnt out, and over 70% of health professionals in Australia actually report moderate to severe burnout during COVID as well. So I found burnout to be actually a real issue that is across the board, whether it's in dental. I'm speaking at a vet conference soon, and they really relate to that topic, or my doctor friends or allied health friends, or even other caring professionals. I have a lot of lawyer friends who actually also feel very burnt out from caring for their clients as well. So, I found burnout is the real issue, and everyone loves to have a life of abundance, right? Like, abundance to different people, just like wealth is a word that you might paint a very different picture depending on who you are. And we wanted to trademark our name, for safety, legality, especially if we're doing volunteer trips and things like that. And we couldn't apply for the trademark Burnout to Abundance because apparently it's too descriptive. So, B2A Culture is what we came up with, because we also do, like I've been running some smaller workplace workshops for HR days for teams, or like team bonding days for some of the practices in Brisbane. And I found that people really want a culture where they enjoy being part of the workplace. Actually, there's a good quote from Richard Branson about this one that I wanted to share. Like, train people well enough so that they can leave, but treat them well enough so that they don't want to leave. So I think we want to have that sort of culture and community and connection in our workplaces, because workplaces are actually where you spend majority of your time when you're awake. You actually spend a third of your life sleeping, and then you actually spend more than a third of the day at work. So you want to spend it with people who are like family, who you actually enjoy spending time with. So it's about the culture. So that's why we called it B2A Culture.
I love that, and thank you
Mm,
for so much for sharing that mission statement, because I think
mm,
you are right that interestingly, when I started talking about burnout as well, how many of my other friends in our society would be like, "Oh my god, I wish we had something like this in our profession as well, and I love how your company is quite diverse in that it's not it can serve dentists, it can serve any kind of workplaces. And I love how your husband Nick has that HR background, so you guys are blending two expertise expertise and skill sets together. So I know you guys are kind of launching a conference very soon to kind of get kick-started in November. And I know you've leveraged your existing network of amazing speakers in your circle, inner circle, that have kindly given their time for this
Mm.
particular conference. So share with anyone who might be free on November 2nd to 3rd. Is that correct?
Yes.
What's happening, and what might they gain from coming to this conference?
Yeah, so thank you, Kaejenn. Yeah, this event, we're very excited about it because it's actually been many years in the making. It's something that when I first started foraying into public speaking, I actually, already told my first mentor in speaking that I wanted to do something like this, because I found when I actually talk about burnout and mental wellness and positive workplace culture and communication to a lot of healthcare professionals, sadly, it's considered like a soft skill that they don't really value, or they see the value, but they would not put their money where their mouth is, because they think that learning about the technical aspects of dentistry is more important than actually learning the skill of being to communicate the treatment, or how to treat your colleagues. That doesn't seem to be as prominent yet in our industry. But I actually had people who were coordinating courses, or, people who were running hospital departments tell me, oh, actually, we think that maybe you're not burnt out because you do property investment. So maybe you should teach other people about property investment. And I was like, that's really like not align with my messaging, because I actually talk about how to practice healthcare with care, which is about healthcare ethics and not money mindedness. But people think when you're investing in property, that's actually money mindedness. But then the more I thought about it, I realized that is actually a need, because, I don't know if you're familiar with the Maslow hierarchy. When people actually are perceiving that they're at the bottom of the pyramid, where they have financial needs, they feel unsafe, or they feel like they haven't got food and shelter, especially with the housing crisis currently, or they can't pay their mortgage, they actually don't have the capacity to think about serving other people. And we found that as well when we were organizing the 15 dentists to come to Thailand with us. There were people who wanted to sign up, but they actually couldn't pay their bills, and they have to wait for their next pay in order to, come on a volunteering trip, because you've got to fund your own flights and accommodation, right, to actually go volunteer. And if you actually can't even look after yourself, how can you actually then give to others? So actually I found, there's a valid point in actually teaching people how to build wealth in the monetary sense, and how to run their business well, and how to manage their time well, and how to have passive income. Because, I'm very lucky currently as a new mum. I get maternity leave pay from the government, which we're very grateful for. I've never done Centrelink before, and it's actually, really nice to have some money show up in our account when I'm not working. And now I've gone back 1 day a week in dentistry to, pay the mortgage and do the bills. But also I do have investment properties, and that's why we are able to actually spend more time traveling with our baby and going and volunteering and speaking, because the rent in those properties are actually able to offset our mortgage. So that's why we can live, not a rich lifestyle, but comfortably. And I think more health professionals, or caring professionals in general, need to learn how to steward or govern their finances wisely, so that they actually invest from early on, and that way they have some passive income, so that, when there are times when you can't work full time, or when you feel really burnt out and you need a break, they have the capacity to do that, and they're not working just to survive, but actually working because they're thriving and they're passionate and they want to help people. And the speakers that I have at this conference on the 2nd and 3rd of November in Brisbane actually all people that are personal friends of mine. So I have one of my first business mentors, Dale Beaumont, is coming to speak for us, and also two of the speakers are actually friends who went on the Richard Branson, Virgin Unite volunteering trip back in 2019, and one of them is Helen Tarrant, who's the most sort of well-known commercial property educator in Australia. And then Terry Tran, who is the biggest farming educator in Australia, who teaches about share market education. Terry actually just gave a talk to 500 farmers actually just in the last few days. And it's funny that he's the biggest farming educator because farmers are very patient people. So they're willing to invest and watch their stock grow, just like farming, right? And that actually supports a lot of our Aussie farmers to be able to last through drought and through flooding and through all the, crazy weather that we've had in the last few years because they've invested in share market and they're able to use the profits from that to sustain their family through the tough times so that they can then persist and go another year after that. So, it's people like that who I want to be able to share with my network and where I know they are kind people who have a good reason for what they're doing and they're actually giving. I've got Bernadette Jansen who actually teaches women who are over 50 about how to renovate. She is now expanding into teaching everyone about renovation, but her initial motivation for even starting the course was actually because she's a nurse who went into renovating with her husband who's in property. And then she realized a lot of her women in her age group were actually homeless after they finish raising their kids or after they can't work anymore. A lot of them are actually living in their cars or living in homeless shelters because they haven't saved up money and maybe their husbands were earning money back when they were younger, but they themselves haven't got anything, nest egg because they've been busy raising their kids. So, I think it's actually very important in this day and age for us to all be more aware of financial education and being able to manage our finances correctly, not spending it on, toys, fast cars, expensive watches, things like that, when you could be building up generational wealth and then using that wealth and sharing it and helping other people who are lacking.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think you raised a really good point, which even on my own personal journey, I realized that, regardless of whether you plan on sticking as a dentist full time, for the 40-year career and have that longevity of career, financial education in all areas of life is not unfortunately taught in university, and financial
Mm.
education, I would argue, is probably the most important education that anyone can have to prosper in life, purely just to, as you said, not only be a steward of your finances, but it's not actually about money mindedness at all, but it's actually saying, like, how do you make money a non-issue in life so that you can actually thrive, because most of the perils and trials and tribulations and circumstances 9 times out of 10 are linked to a lack of money.
Mm.
And when you can take care of finances so that you can live life on purpose, I think that's a different mindset, but that can only be realized when you've got the financial education to make better decisions and maybe even rewrite some of the conditioning and biases that we've grown up with. And they're not necessarily wrong,
Mm.
but they may not serve us to, let's say, what we call a desired future state, financially and emotionally and holistically. So I think, you've created an amazing conference for, I guess, any dental professional who wants to embark upon that next journey of financial education and personal development. So how can people, obviously I'll, we'll post some obviously links to how they can access it, and I'm sure it's all over your website, but, just share with people, how can they get access to attend? Where is it being taken place, by the way? And I know you shared very generously that for all of our viewers today, you're going to give a little bit of a special discount code, which I'm so grateful for. So yeah, maybe share a little bit more about if people want to attend that event on November 2nd and 3rd, where is it, and where can they get tickets?
Yeah. So all all the details for registration, thanks to my husband, is on our website. So the website for the event is B2A Culture. So B for, burnout, 2 is number 2, and A is for abundance, b2aculture.com. You can also look up the posters on my social. So we actually have an Instagram page and a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page for B2A Culture now, which is, at B2A Culture. And it's 2nd and 3rd of November in Brisbane. We're holding this event. And my, main aim is to help health professionals, but of course if other people relate to this message of needing to journey from burnout to abundance and learning about what the mindset of abundance is, how can you perceive as having enough, then everyone is welcome to attend. We've made it very affordable. Currently the prices up until the 30th of September is $297 for 2 full days, including food. We're not really, it's not a money making thing. And all the speakers are actually coming as volunteers to help serve our audience. And we're also really excited. We're going to announce probably this weekend or maybe early next week that we have a special guest on Saturday night who's coming to share with us how he went from someone who wanted to volunteer on medical missions, just like myself, to actually an owner of 140 physio practices all around Australia and New Zealand, and then selling it for $100 million. I'm very excited to have this special guest join us on Saturday night. It's an amazing event. I'm, honestly so grateful for all the speakers we have involved, as well as some of our sponsors. One of my sponsors who's actually paying for one of the speakers to come and speak for us, like the flights and accommodation and things like that. He actually connected me with this lovely ex-physio who is now a leadership coach. If people are interested in joining us, the discount code for 10% off the tickets, you can enter it in the coupon section, is Limitless, capital Limitless, 24. So, we'll post that under the chat as well afterwards. Kaejenn's got all the links and things like that, but I'm very grateful, Kaejenn, for your platform of, helping dentists not limit themselves in just being a dentist, but actually how they can live life to the fullest and, and learn how to have work-life balance and self-care. So, for your audience, I'd love to share that code and they can register on b2aculture.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your generosity today. Not only just your time, Grace, but also, your expertise and also just your testimony. Because I know, I'm really glad that we could you're actually the first speaker that I've had to talk about, motherhood and navigating the dental journey, dental volunteering, and obviously now, the B2A Culture, exciting rebrand and the conference coming up. And I really thank you for your time today, because I think this is going to add a lot of value to the audience. So anyone who's a mum and a dentist going, oh my God, like I feel a bit lost and where can I get resources? Can I also ask as well, Grace, if people want to, let's say they were really inspired by your story and they wanted to reach out to you outside of all these phenomenal events and the websites that you have, where can people, potentially if they wanted to gain some extra insight from you as a mum and also a dentist and navigating life through that, how can people potentially reach out to you if they want to get in contact with you as well?
Yeah, so thank you, Kaejenn. We're Instagram living on my personal profile as well as B2A Culture one. So my Instagram is at Dr. Grace Tchia, GRACESHA, and I've got my website that I shared before, the drgracetchia.com /linktree, and that's got all the links to my socials. I'm probably most active on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. I think that's how we met, actually, Kaejenn. So, one of the socials anyway. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and I do post a lot about my life as a speaker, a dentist, and a mum. And you'll probably see a lot of Jedi content on there currently. Feel free to follow me on all of those platforms, comment or like my posts, and also you can shoot me a private message as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so so much for your time, and thanks again, Nick, in the background, for your support for helping Grace do what she does. And yeah, I mean, definitely for anyone who wants to attend that conference, the discount code is Limitless24 capital with all capitals. We'll post all of the details in the comments once we post this live for a replay. But thank you again, Grace, for your time, and I'm super excited to see what you guys get up to next. And I know as well, it's going to happen in the future. But I know last time we spoke about an imminent, future book launch, and I'm keen to actually bring you back in again for a third time to celebrate that launch when that happens. So I know we're going to have more and more of these amazing conversations. But otherwise, hope you have an amazing Saturday, and look forward to chatting again next time.
Thank you for having me, Kaejenn. Always good to catch up with you.
All right, see you later.
See you.